Welcome to Robert's Report.
Okay, I'm going to try to connect this thing here one time. That's it.
One time.
Craig, did you get this from an 80s aerobic video? Stretch.
No, what we did was just try to look for something that wasn't copyrighted.
Hit 3.
And this was like music that was on the countdown.
And squat.
And then after we heard it for a couple of weeks, we just kind of actually thought it was cool because it was so stupid.
You start enjoying it.
Yeah.
She's a maniac.
For sure.
Oh, that's nice.
What the hell is that?
It was me playing that. That was kind of funny.
You can play it out here too?
Oh, we got 4 people watching.
It's Mr. Turner.
You know what we should do is we should have...
we got Gary back on. There will be a shirt comment tonight.
We should have Alec and maybe...
we need to get Rodney. Hey, we need to get Rodney on here now that he can talk. Now that his silence period is up. His what do you call it?
His disclosure.
Yes, his non-disclosure in NDAs.
Oh, hey, I didn't add Chan's picture on there. I'll put it on there after we're done.
Just make sure you get rid of that one of me.
I didn't even keep that one.
I hope not. Oh my! It looked like
people really going to think you're
really wrong with me on that.
I think you're rolling herbs over here at the podcast. This is a Cheech and Chong hour.
And it's doing the same thing. It says connect, so it says connected on here. Not now, but it says connected on there. But then all it says on here is trying to connect. So probably have to get in touch with.
Maybe try to remove the widget and then.
Yeah, I did that on the. I created it new on the other one.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You have to get in touch with XSplit support and see what they say.
I got stoned and I missed it.
Anyway, I'll take this out and pop Mike in there.
Probably no easy way of putting comments up there.
I was thinking about calling the lawn service Now We Mow.
Chan's on there. He says hopefully this podcast isn't about hot dogs like last one.
Hey, we love our hot dogs.
Hey, hot dogs got a mention on Larry's Facebook post.
Sauce,
did you
mustard,
finish that
onion.
freaking hamburger?
Hot dogs.
Did you finish that hamburger?
No.
Okay, I was going to say I don't know how you could have.
I didn't even finish the half of the half.
That might be too big to call a hamburger.
The meat was too big to fit in my mouth. You know?
That's like a whole mound of. Maybe there we go. Mount Burgerist, you could call it. Mount Everest. Have you had it yet, Scott? To compare it to the Thurman burger yet?
No, I haven't had it yet.
I do have to say it was really, really good. I just couldn't finish it.
Thurman's got good wings too.
Really?
Well, they do the full. You get the full wing, so you get drumstick and so if you order 10 wings, it's like ordering 20.
See, this music just kind of relaxes you, gets you in the mood, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what mood, but yeah.
Exactly.
And stretch, and 2, and 3, and 4. Now slide.
It's fun to watch the evolution of the show and the pictures on the top.
Yeah, there's a good thing it's just the pictures.
Oh. Good evening.
And I'm not prepared. Man, I don't even know where I have the theme.
From the Man Cave
Oh, there they are.
Studios. This
Right here.
is Robert's Report.
I was concentrating so much on everything else, I didn't get going.
There we go.
From the Man Cave Studios in South Parkersburg, West Virginia. Live and uncensored.
I don't want to tell him what a cheap, lying, no good, rotten, four-flushing low.
This is Robert's Report.
Wait a minute. I mean, if we're going to do that, I really want to play the one I want to play.
Yeah, just play the
From the
real
Man
uncensored.
Cave Studios in South Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Wiki, wiki, wiki.
Live and uncensored.
Yeah, well, fuck you.
This is Robert's Report with your host, Craig Roberts.
And I've been thinking we love you, Craig. To let 'em know that we're alive. Everybody, lift your hands to the sky. If you feel it, you feel it. Let them know that family will send
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Robert's Report. I am Craig Roberts, and we have a pretty good-sized panel here this evening. We got Mr. Larry Parmenter. He's been on before. And we also have Jay Morris with us.
Howdy.
Jay, how you doing?
Good.
And, of course, our technical director, Scott Martin, over there.
Yeah, I'm sitting over here.
Who's
Here
that
I am.
guy? There he is.
And we have a special guest with us this evening, Mr. Mike Keller from Letters from the Fire. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, what's up, brothers?
So glad we was able to connect finally.
Hey, this is the best Skype connection we've ever had, Mike. You got a good-looking setup there.
It's California,
I
man.
got my computer and my internet.
And he's clear on the other side of the United States, too. Imagine that. But anyway, we do appreciate you taking some time to answer some questions. And obviously, you've got a little bit of news, I'm sure, that you'll be able to share with us, hopefully, with some of your what's going on with Letters from the Fire. I've been following you all since Elliot, of course.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember a little place here you played in West Virginia called Schmidt's Saloon.
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Yep, with Katie the Rock Goddess.
I love Katie. Katie's awesome.
Yep, Katie and I were the ones that we were the only ones that did rock actually for Schmidt's Saloon. We got them started in it, and they did it, and it's kind of fizzled out now. They don't do anything other than they do some like Blackstone Cherry, which they're still rock Southern country sort of music now. But anyway, let's get back to where. So you've got a new lead singer now. Of course, we have to ask. What's going on?
What happened to the old lead singer?
Yeah, we were kind of, it's like this running joke that we just have a new singer every record. Well, I can't say exactly what happened. It's just one of those things where, Cameron, Clayton, and I have been in the band for so long, and we have a specific vibe, and
Absolutely.
And those guys work super hard, and they want it more than anything, and we just don't deal with people who, aren't ready to do this, and to do this is it's an incredibly hard job. It's you're away from your families. It's not easy at all, and so basically we had to, kind of part ways with people who didn't align with our goals, I guess you could say.
Understand. Yeah, the little bit of dabbing I've had from the promoter side of it, bands, for them to survive, it's almost like a marriage. If the marriage don't work out, it don't matter how hard you try, you just can't get the music out and get it the way you want it. So sometimes it works,
absolutely.
Sometimes it doesn't. So,
And that's a little known fact of bands on the road, that you may hear a record and certain bands choose, the lead singer is the leader. So the band you hear on the road is not the band you hear on the record, because the studio musicians, they have real lives that they live in Nashville. They don't want to tour. So when I can understand, Mike, when you've got a band that, no, this is what we're doing. We're dropping everything. We're not going to be home for like 6 months. So you've got to be committed to. You can't get a phone call like, oh, I have to fly 500 miles and I'll be back in a week. No, we can't do that. So,
and actually, that last run, Mike, I think you were probably out longer than 6 months even. I mean, you all tagged on. I'm seeing a Seether tour, and who else did you tour with?
Blackstone Cherry. We were out with Adelita's Way.
Yeah. I mean, you were out for a long time.
Yeah, we were out for a while. But I mean, that's if you're on tour and if you're constantly playing, that's a good sign. If you're home and you got nothing to do, then no one wants to see you, and that you're doing something wrong.
Right. So. Right. Well, I know I can't wait to hear the new stuff. I mean, just the whole. I mean, I'm sure the style of the music will stay similar, but with a different, front person. I don't want you to change the music because the music was awesome. So
I appreciate that.
That's just for me. You kind of on a different note here. You post a lot of pictures or a lot of videos of the gym time. You obviously spend a lot of time in the gym, I guess. Was that something that? Where'd that come from? Have you always been at?
Well, I was an athlete in high school, and I didn't actually. Funny enough, I didn't start playing guitar until I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh.
And so sports was always my thing. My dream was actually to be like a professional tennis player. I was going to go to Stanford and play tennis, and that was like my thing. That's what I wanted to do. And then in high school, I also played football, and I got got looked at by some smaller colleges to play. But I think after I saw Metallica, which was my first concert, it was all over, and I pretty much just kind of I put up I guess you could say the cleats up for music, and I went into that for a while, and then just recently, I don't know, probably within the last maybe 2 years, I just started lifting again, and I had some time off, and I hung out with this guy named Ben Trapp, and he's a trainer at this gym, and he also listens to metal, so we kind of connected in that way, and he was like, let me teach you how to lift properly, and I just got into it. I don't know, it's just fun. It's fun to move big weight. It's it's just different, and kind of I think it keeps me sane, to be honest.
Now you lift a lot. Do you do a lot of cardio as well? I mean, I don't really see you doing much cardio, but
not cardio in the sense of like running on a treadmill. It's a lot of it is more like functional cardio, like more athletic cardio. So a lot of like high intensity stuff at short intervals.
Okay, I got you. Which I mean, for fitness, it's got to help you on stage too. So it can't hurt in many ways. For keeping you keep you sane and keep everything in check.
I'd like to know if just touring keeps you fit or not, because I haven't seen many unfit rock and roll singers except for Axl Rose.
Where's your ass?
Touring, I wouldn't say it keeps you fit. I mean, you sit a lot. You're sitting for 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day, and then you play for 30 minutes. Moving gear doesn't take that long, especially when you have a crew.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands are eating really bad, and sometimes it's a lot of bar food and that type of stuff. So it's not really the most conducive, environment to staying fit. So you really have to fight to be fit, I think, is more of what it is.
You get people like Jay Morris bringing you pepperoni rolls and all that bread and fat stuff.
Oh man, those things get tore up though.
We had a band touring through our area, and I was trying to remember the name. It was Otherwise, and awesome. The lead singer, he in their rider, they requested like a clear 10-foot by 10-foot area that was curtained off or something, and I couldn't really understand what it was for. And it was exactly for what you're talking about. Is they had under the bus a suitcase that came in, and I opened it up, and it didn't have anything to do with music. It was all lifting weights and a pad to lay on the floor. So it was basically setting up a mini gym.
Yeah, dude, they have a heavy bag that they used to. I don't know if they still do or not, but they have a heavy bag they hook onto their bus.
Yeah, and the whole band was into it. So that, like you're saying, that you're trying to stay active and healthy. They requested special food. Not really special, but they didn't want the bar menu, but they wanted. I think we did some steamed chicken for them and vegetables and things like that. But it was, I think two of the four were vegetarian. So it doesn't necessarily mean, I'm sure as Scott's referring that when you see some of the bands on stage, it's like, whoa, these guys have rode on the bus too long. But there's definitely things that you can do if you're planning ahead. So you can keep yourself active, and that's why you've got the early setups, and you want to set up at noon, and then you've got time before the show, time to prepare mentally, and I've been on a few buses before, and riding along for 8 hours necessarily doesn't give you rest. That to be sitting still is in a hotel room is definitely better rest than being on the road with the bumps.
Hey, we got a question from our co-host Nathan's brother Doug here. He says, and it's actually a pretty good one. Thanks, Doug. He says, you got a new drummer too. How did you go about auditioning the new singer and the new drummer to make sure they fit your vibe?
Well, that was the so when we separated with Alexa, our whole thing was, okay, well, Alexa has a really big voice. Worth the Pain did 28,000 records worldwide, and I don't know if you guys know this, but we're signed to our own label, so we really do everything ourselves. And so we were like, okay, well, if we're gonna do this again, we have to find someone that is just gonna blow people's minds. Like, we have to go next level. What is that gonna be? And so it was really, it was kind of cosmic the way Nina came on board. Nina was actually signed to Warner for 6 albums, and she actually had just got out of her contract. She bought herself out of it. And this girl's like in movies in Universal. She's probably one of the hardest working musicians I've ever worked with in my life. She's actually taken on a leadership role in this band, which to me is like amazing, because there's so much pressure on my shoulders for so many years of just really kind of being on my own as far as just like being, the point person. And now she's bringing so much to the table. So that we got really lucky with that. And, she's super sweet, hardworking. She's already engaging with all the fans. And that was important for us because we love our fans very much. And we try to engage with all of them as much as we can. So that really worked out in our favor when we found Nina. As far as Seth, we actually had been on tour with Seth. He was in his band called Children 18-3. And I remember every night we would just watch him drum, because this guy's just a beast. He's nuts. And he's huge, by the way. He's like massive. And I remember one day we were watching him do his drum solo, and he's doing this crazy triplet, like double bass stuff. And we looked down, and we all started freaking out, because he only uses one bass pedal, so he does it with one foot.
Wow.
And I just remember going, man, that dude is the dude, So when we decided to look for a drummer, he was the first guy I called, and as soon as he said yes, it was over. He was the guy. So
the Bonham way.
That's pretty wild. You don't normally see a single pedal in any metal bands these days.
I don't even know how you could hit it that fast with one foot. Good Lord.
Yeah, I don't
know.
He
practices. He's very dedicated to his craft.
So you kind of touched something there I was going to ask about. Now, you're sort of you have 3 of you that are founders of the band, right? Is that what you said? You, Clay, and what's the other guy's name?
Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron. So you're the go-to guy then. Are you the more so the business decision person, and then I guess then?
Yeah, I'm definitely, I guess you could say, jack of all trades. I'm the primary writer. Pretty much my manager calls me every morning at 8 a.m. and it's all right. We got to do this, and that, and Cameron and Clayton are they're basically, they've been my support system for the last, 10 years. They've been great. and they've anything that I needed, they were there. And so we have a great team. Everybody does what they do best in this band, and and so I'm very fortunate to have those guys for sure.
I always kind of wondered how that worked whenever you hire a management company, if ultimately the band has the end say of what they can or can't do or want to do or don't want to do, or does the management company, once you sign the line, do they make those decisions for you?
No, I mean, management is just they're basically, we have Larry Mazer. He did Breaking Benjamin for 10 years, Lamb of God. He managed Kiss at some point. He's done everybody. He's an old school. It's kind of when you're in the industry, you're like, man, you really want that old school cat. The guy who isn't saying, hey, I need you guys to pay me 10 grand a month before, all that type of stuff, which is what a lot of young bands see. And he came to us, he believed in the band, and he said, I get paid when you get paid. He got us all these great tours last year, and has just been pushing us. And it's a team effort. So he'll show us stuff. He says, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? At the end of the day, we all come to a consensus of what the band direction needs to be, and then we all make decisions and go in that direction together.
That's great. I mean, I didn't realize it worked that way. So it's kind of you all are sort of the board then, and the boardroom, I guess. And
now,
yeah, I mean, absolutely.
I thought of something I wanted to ask when you said you were the primary writer, Mike. Now, do you have music education?
I don't. I'm self-taught musically. I think when I was in high school, I used to lock myself in my room for 4 to 8 hours a day, and then all I did was play music and play music and play music. And I think where I differed from a lot of up and coming guitar players that I grew up with, like friends around here, is a lot of them played a lot of music, a lot of their bands that they liked riffs, and I focused mostly on songwriting and just getting out my ideas and stuff like that. So and then after writing thousands of songs that nobody will ever hear, eventually you just kind of start to get better at it, and you stop sucking, and then you just keep learning. It's a learning experience.
So I could see how you could do lyrics, because that's kind of like poem writing or something like that. But when you actually are writing the music, does somebody have to transpose that onto with all the notes and everything on I don't know what the proper term is for that.
No, we all I have Pro Tools, so I record. I mean, I just record at my house. I have a studio at my house, but the musicians like Clayton is one of the most insane bass players you'll ever see. Yeah, he's absolutely ridiculous, and he played with Shooter Jennings. I mean, he's an old school kid too, and Cameron did go to Berklee School of Music. Oh wow. In Boston, so they just listen to the song and they go cool, and then we play it. Wow. It's just one of those.
Do you more often start out with lyrics first, or you're starting out with the melody first? There's different ways to go.
Do you have all kinds of melodies saved up and you're waiting for the right lyrics, or vice versa? Yeah.
Well, every record has been different. So when we did Worth the Pain, all that music was already written before Alexa was even in the band. It was actually written for Elliot. Or at least some variation of that music. But on this new record, a lot of it is actually based off of Nina's melodies and lyrics. She came in with so much stuff from Warner that was just great stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I think, the songs are great. How do we present it in a Letters from the Fire musically way, So this record was really cool because it took a lot of the guesswork out. And a lot of the music is vocally focused more than riff focused. Which, really, at the end of the day, I mean, your singer is the most important person in the band. And so I think it's definitely going to be a little bit of a different feel on this record, in the sense that it's not guitar-driven, but there are big guitar sounds on it.
So about the music on Worth the Pain, do you own all of those songs, or does Alexa own any of those? I mean, I don't know if you can say that or not, but I'm just curious on, will you still be playing some of the music off of that record?
We own the music, so it's always, the band will always own the music. She'll always get a cut but obviously, but she doesn't own the music, we own it, and but yeah, it's definitely a possibility to play them. I'm not sure. Maybe at most give in to me, just because that one did so well, and maybe worth the pain. But we're really gonna focus on this new record because it's night and day above Worth the Pain, and we're really excited about it, and Nina especially.
Yeah, I guess the song "War" was the one that seems like a very sort of a dark type of song, but a dark and then overcome. I don't know if that's a good explanation of it or not. Is that one that you think you'll still play, or?
It depends. I mean, "At War" was a great song for what it was, and I think the purpose of that song was it wasn't like there was no happy ending in that song.
Right.
The whole song, I think the purpose was to let everybody know who's alone out there.
Do you feel
feels that way, and there's not always okay.
Do you feel if you do some of the songs from the former lead singer that possibly takes some of the soul out when you don't have the original singer there, or you feel the soul of the music is that you were all writing it together, the majority of you, so that the band has to go on.
Well, I think Worth the Pain was an era of this band. I mean, unfortunately, like a lot of bands that you see, before they get out into the mainstream and they're on radio and people hear them, they've already had 7 singles.
Well, we've seen many generations of Van Halen.
Unfortunately, got out.
You had you've got Dave, and then you got Sammy. I mean, you transfer from album to album with a different lead singer, but you're still tapping back with the to keep the whole fan base going. So, but you definitely have to keep going forward.
Yeah.
When you have a new singer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is it's going to be a new thing for original fans. The fans that we have right now are going to embrace, because they're going to, at the end of the day, if it's better, it's better, and then the band's growing, and I think also the positive vibe that's around the band now, people are really going to pick up on it, and again, I think Nina's overall personality, and she's so interesting, and her life is just so insane that a lot of people are I think are really going to take to her.
Hey, Mike, we had another comment on our Facebook video from one of the fans. Stacy Beckstrom says, when can we expect the new album? And I'm dying to see you guys live again. So I guess what we'd like to hear is, when will you be back in West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky area again?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, I love Stacy. She's a great fan. She's in LA. So the first single is slated to come out April 10th with a video. So it should hit radio April 10th, and then most likely the record will come out probably like June-ish, summertime, along with our second single. And then we should be back on the road around April, May. So we're submitted for tons of tours, and we're just kind of solidifying our schedule for the rest of the year.
Well, if you have any teaser things that you pop out there, by all means, we'll pin it to our page and stuff to help promote it for you. So
yeah, and where's the best place to find those new tour dates when you announce them?
Yeah, when we announce them, they'll definitely be on our Facebook page, and they'll be on our website, and our band's in town. It's just facebook.com/lettersfromthefire. We'll definitely, as soon as any kind of important information, that will most likely be the first place it goes.
All right, you heard that, folks. So if you haven't went out and liked Letters from the Fire's Facebook page, make sure you stick Letters from the Fire up in your search page and get that page liked so you can find out when those tours are coming.
Hey, and thanks, Stacy, for tuning in to us. That's our first California fan there, I think, or listener. So thanks, appreciate it. And thank you, Mike, for bringing them.
Oh, hey. No worries.
So that was going to be my next question, I guess, when the next album comes out. So you already answered that. Rock on the Range. Have you all played Rock on the Range? I don't think you have you?
We've never played it, but we did radio there with Elliot a couple years ago. So I was there doing interviews and stuff. Actually, when we did Eleanor Rigby, we were promoting that song.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I mean, not to go back, me and Elliot he was nuts. I mean, when we talk about one of the most fittest people in the world, I remember somebody making the remark about he wasn't allowed to take his shirt off or something or other because his chiseled stomach. But anyway, I don't want to go back on that, but I just remembered that for some reason or other. So what about videos? You got some videos coming along with your songs as well, your singles?
Yeah, we March 11th we actually go to film our first single. It's called Comfort You, and it's pretty heavy, man. It's in your face. It's really aggressive in a really cool way, and it's cool because Nina. I don't know if you guys know, Nina's from Denmark, so she's actually European. So there's actually like a really cool accent, and a lot of you'll hear it in some of the songs, and it's a really cool character. But yeah, we do the video March 11th, and then it should be ready for the single drop April 10th.
Where are you going to film it at? Can you spill that?
Yeah, we'll be in LA, and we actually there's a director from Denmark who's actually flying down, and we have an actor as well who's going to be in the video. And yeah, so we'll go down there for a whole day. It'll just be all band stuff the first day, and then I think the second day is Nina and all the performance acting type stuff. So.
She reminds me a lot of young Brigitte Nielsen. Remember her?
Oh yeah,
that's what she reminds me of.
Yeah, it was with the short hair, right?
Yeah. She was Danish too, I believe.
Yeah, she was definitely Norwegian or somewhere. Yeah, Norwegian or Danish.
Would you consider her as being harder than? I've not heard any of her vocals before, so is it closer to? Is there anybody out there that's even close to her style, or?
I think what we've been hearing from the industry, which is what we really wanted, was that she's basically her own thing. And, what they said from, the feedback we've been getting on this record is that we basically just shot a huge wedge into the female active rock thing, and we basically made our own lane. The scary thing is, when you write a record, especially when you're female fronted, is you don't want, there's like 3 major female fronted bands, right? Mm-hmm. You got, Lizzie Hale,
right?
You got, Evanescence, and then you got In This Moment.
Right?
One's metal, one's kind of gothic rock, and one's just straight up rock and roll. And we basically decided we didn't want to follow any of those kind of paths, and we got our kind of own thing going on. And yeah, it doesn't sound like anybody out there right now. And her voice, she's definitely got more attitude. She's definitely more aggressive. And yeah, there's just an energy that's different about this music that I think you guys will really feel.
Definite big stage presence. I would assume you said she was a kind of a leader, so it's one of the qualities you got to have as a lead singer is to control the stage.
Now, you mentioned Evanescence there, and that was actually a question I wanted to get around to asking you. Are you going to do a lot of male and female lead stuff, or is it going to be primarily her?
No, she's the primary singer on all this stuff. Even on Worth the Pain, any of the low octave male vocals that were in there, the screams were really low, and they were just accessory stuff. But and live I'll do a lot of stuff just to help her, just to be a help. But yeah, it's the Nina show, man. She's a rock star. That girl is. I'm telling you, when you see her on stage, she's gonna shine. She's just got this huge presence about her that I can't even explain. And when she walks in a room, everyone's just like, "Who's that?" You know what I mean? And I think she's really gonna just take hold, and we're finally, the band can just be the band, and just let her do her thing. So it's pretty exciting.
From a financial side of the band business, what kind of investment does it take to do a video? I mean, is it? I'm sure that sky is the limit on costs on certain things, but I guess the reason what I'm alluding into here is ticket prices. We've had conversations on our show here different times about ticket prices and investment of fans and why are ticket prices so much more now than a good example. Kid Rock was in Columbus there last night, and the cheapest ticket there in the nosebleed was like $160 a seat. So
wow.
But I don't think a lot of people realize how much of an investment behind the scenes of what it takes to run a band, to promote it, to market it, and maybe something you could share there for us.
Yeah, just in general or music video specific. I mean, the thing about a music video is you can do a music video for $500, you can do a music video for $100,000. It just depends on what you're trying to do, who's doing it. A lot of the up-and-comer younger directors can do a lot more with the technology these days, for a lot less money. But I've always been of the mindset that you get what you put into it. So I think a lot of people sometimes go, cool, well, we have this huge video budget, just throw money at it and it'll do what it's supposed to do. But if there's no heart and love behind the idea, it doesn't matter. So but that's for videos. But being in a band in general, I mean, to break a rock band, it's a minimum of $250,000. And that's the thing too, is most of these bands, they come out on these labels, and pretty much I can guarantee you that no band is getting any legit deals for the most part. Like, I know tons of my friends in bands that are killing it on radio, and everyone thinks like they're this huge band, but those dudes, they can't even buy themselves luggage.
I was going to ask you about that, Mike, because I'm a reformed radio disc jockey, and and so I know a little bit about the business, and thinking about a band that has a #1 active rock song. That's such a small genre that a #1 active rock song probably doesn't get you any money at all, right? I'm guessing, or not.
Yeah, that's the funny part. It's really interesting. Radio is a very interesting thing. It's necessary and it's not necessary. So you have to find a balance between, I guess, playing along. The problem with the rock industry is it's still so behind the times of what's going on and how to be efficient. Just because no one really cares about it. If you're really looking at it, I mean, if you're looking at it in the scope of the full music industry with pop, rock, and country, and rap and hip hop and all that stuff, I mean, rock is dead last. It gets snubbed at the Grammys. There just hasn't been that rock star. There's really no rock stars, if you really think about it, and I think the industry is waiting for that next person to come out and revive rock in some way. I mean, I think, at the end of the day, sales speak for themselves. A rap group are selling millions of copies in the first week, and the biggest rock record after 4 or 5 months has only sold 40,000 copies.
So how many people would you be traveling with when you're touring? I mean, we've got a few venues around here in the Middle Ohio Valley, and we've seen what we thought was a huge rock band come in, and it was basically just the band. That the band set everything up, and then we've had others that there was a guitar tech, there was a bass tech, there was a stage tech, there was a front of house engineer, there was a back of house. And I mean, the band was 5 people, and they were traveling with 12 other people. How many people do you normally travel with when you're on tour? Do you have technicians that travel with you and things like that?
No, I mean, the name of the game when you're in when you're doing this and you're an up and coming band is that you tour lean. You got to be lean in your business expenses. You have to be smart. A lot of people are like so obsessed about the appearances, like, oh, we got to look like we're this huge band. Like, well, I can't put my own guitar on because that makes me look small. And it's like, well, first of all, no one cares. The fans are there. If they love your band, they're there to see you, and they're gonna love you no matter what. And so like we travel with just the merch guy.
Oh, okay.
Or merch girl or whoever, and and if our merch person can also do sound and is good at it, then we'll get that person. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the only way you can sustain and pay your bills and do well Like we're so lean that our band actually makes money, and everybody comes home with a check.
And we
keep all our
understand the
expenses
merch
super
thing.
low.
We do. We always got to have the merch
even merch
table set up.
management. I mean,
Yeah.
I know bands, they go out for the first time and they buy, they buy so much merch because they've never done it before. They don't know how to. They're just expecting everyone their merch to just fly off the things, and it's like it doesn't really work that way. You have to really understand your audience, understand who you're making stuff for, understand who's going to buy, what's going to buy, and it's just a lot of business stuff. And I feel like a lot of bands get signed and go, cool, here label, do the work, we'll just play the shows, and the bands that aren't familiar with their books and their numbers are going to fail, unless they're blowing up because they have a ‑1 song, and which is great.
I think a lot of people are money conscious now. When it's like, oh, I want to go home with a shirt, but $50 does seem a little much. So I can definitely see you've got to price it and understand your market, of what the fans are willing to pay and then what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the your show tickets are based on who's willing to pay that price, and if people are willing to pay a higher price, then it's a smart business, plan to make it more expensive if you can do it. But if you can't, then you need to be in a reasonable spot and that includes your, whether it's your ticket sales, or your merch prices.
So you had talked about that you've been writing all the music. We've had some bands through that have taken the route of doing some covers. Have you entertained the idea of doing a cover of a song from years back to put on an album to really get the sales going, and then you can it carries the original music that you've written?
Well, I know a band that did really well with that was I Prevail, and they had that cover of what was it, Taylor Swift or whatever, and that did really well for the record sales because it was such a great cover and it blew up everywhere, and they were able to sell records and people were paying attention, And covers are great, but the problem with putting them on your record is that it actually screws up a lot of how your mechanicals get paid out, because that person who wrote that song is basically getting all the money.
Right. You have to definitely take a cut in the sales to pay that artist or writer for that song. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, you're better off just making it like some single that you release on the side and you put it on YouTube.
Oh.
If you have the fan base. I mean, the funny thing about that Eleanor Rigby cover is that was a demo. Like we recorded that in 20 minutes, and Elliot was like didn't even know what the song was. He read the lyrics and then sang it in my closet. and it was funny because we were trying to figure out what our first radio single was going to be with Elliot. And I sent that song just as a joke. Like, it wasn't even edited. The guitars are totally messy, and I don't know if you guys know, the drums are totally programmed. Every fill is the same fill. And I was laughing because the radio guy he's like, "Why aren't we using this? This should be your first single. It's the Beatles." Blah 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 blah. And we're like, I guess, sure. I mean, you know the radio better than we do, so let's see what happens. And it's got over a couple million on Spotify, and it's done well, but it's something we don't really look back at anymore.
Now that brings up a good question. When you're playing live, I was watching a documentary about Leonard Skinner when they were going in to record, and the engineers were just amazed that they played everything exactly the same every time. So they had memorized the bass lines, memorized the drum fills, memorized the guitar solos. That's so if you hear Freebird, when it's live, it's note for note the same. Do you guys like to do that when you're in concert, or do you like to leave leeway for solos to be improvised?
I think musically everything is how we record it. In a live experience, the kind of, I guess, adrenaline you get, you're bound to do a lot more fun, exciting things like extra squeals and crazy stupid bends here and there, and I gotta imagine that I'm sure Nina will do some riff off things, and Cameron generally for the most part he plays the solos as he's written them, but he's been known to kind of go off and do some extra crazy stuff, but I think at the end of the day, the live performance, as long as the song is a song and you have fun with it, I think that's what matters, and that's where the fans really engage, as they see the band having fun and loving the music.
Hey, Mike, that brings up a question I've always had. I always wanted to ask this to a live performer. Do you ever record a song and then you've played that song like 60 times live and you're like, Jesus, I wish I hadn't have done that way?
No, I've kind of the funny thing about the songwriting process is like it's never done until you basically put it to rest. You can always change something, you can always do things to change the vibe of the song, but at the end of the day, the song, once it's released, I'm like, that is the song, and I am good with it. I've moved on. I'm ready to write the next record.
I see.
Yeah, it's funny because Bon Jovi was one of the ones that the key change in shit, I just drew a blank. The
Living on a Prayer.
Yep, there you go. The key change in Living on a Prayer. He says every time that he goes out there, he would kick himself in the ass for doing that key change. Now, since he's older and can't hit the high note. But
the good thing is I'm just playing guitar, so I can.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure even at 20 years from now, I should be able to play these songs.
Hey, you know what? That's another thing too. Is at least you don't have quite. I mean, I'm sure you help other people set up the drums and stuff, but at least you don't have. You go in and plug your guitar in. And
oh, I know. Every time I meet a drummer, I'm like, "What were you thinking?"
So the guy that your new drummer, by the way, does he take a big kit on tour or not?
No, he plays a small kit.
Okay.
It's generally a snare, 2 toms.
We were talking at the beginning before the show, pre-show. We were talking about Dream Theater, and that is the biggest kit I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing: if you got a crew and you're not touching anything, then sure, have 30 different kick drums and all this stuff. But I mean, when you're touring, and probably the most annoying thing we encountered is when local bands, local band will come out with like this 16 piece kit, and you're like, oh no, this means they're gonna take forever to get on and forever to get off, and it's gonna screw everything up, And I mean, like I said, we tour as lean as possible. As our whole setup is it's created to be broken down within 5 minutes after we're done. So,
what do you tour in?
We tour in a Mercedes Sprinter van.
Oh, cool.
And a trailer.
Hey, we actually have another fan question here on the Facebook feed. Stephen Hall says, just got on this feed, so I don't know if this was already talked about, but it hasn't been, Stephen, so that's good. But are you guys ready to play at Rock on the Range? We missed you guys at Diesel Lounge in Pittsburgh, so we're definitely going to be in the crowd in Columbus this May.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with the whole restructuring of the band and figuring everything out, we're missing out on a lot of these summer tours or the summer festivals because we weren't ready to, because those are really they're pretty much booked in December.
Yeah,
like months ahead. So we weren't in a place to even to do that. So we'll probably miss most of the festivals. Hopefully, maybe we'll get on some of the later festivals, but we'll definitely. Especially come next year, those are all on the mark.
I'm sure,
on the list.
Depending on the date, Craig and I could come up with a gas gig venue for you here in West Virginia. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I love that. Schmidt Saloon was a really fun venue to play, especially when they extended the stage out.
Oh yeah, and I tell you what,
and the sound and the lights are amazing.
I was going to say, Owen sold his Jeep. Owen Schmidt sold his Jeep to upgrade the sound system when he did. That was one of the things they left no stone unturned whenever they put that sound system together in there, and it's still in my opinion, the best sound system in West Virginia.
Yeah, it sounded great. I mean, because we did a headline show there after the Trap show that we played months earlier, and then they had extended the stage, and I was like, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, we have one here in Ohio called the Adelphia Music Hall.
They played there.
Yeah, I played there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they didn't make it to that one, but they have a as you know, then they have a pretty decent sound system too, but just a little bit smaller venue. I think they hold about 300 people or something like that.
Yeah, I think they have a sub, and they actually have a single big speaker right in the top.
Yep.
instead of like a double thing, and they just go mono. Well, I mean, most venues are mono, anyways. But yeah, that's a cool venue.
Yeah, we were just here last night. I don't know if you've played with the band Wayland, any out of Michigan.
I've never played with them, but I do know the guys. I hung out with them in Vegas, and they're really
Las
cool
Vegas.
guys.
It's
Super
no
nice.
Atlantic City.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my favorite place is Vegas. So, what's you have any crazy? I mean, I've seen a couple posts from you. Any crazy tour stories that you'd like to share with us? I mean, I remember seeing one dude that I don't know. You posted something about wanting to throat punch some guy that was that tried to rush the stage or something or other. And,
there's always somebody that I want to throw punch.
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you deal with a lot of personalities on the road, you know, and especially, you know, I mean, a rock show is good for a lot of drunk people, so it's definitely tough, especially for someone who doesn't really drink. So
I was going to say that
sober.
I never dealt well with drunks when I wasn't drinking. Yeah, it can be difficult.
I don't want to turn it into an East Coast West Coast thing, but do you feel that one or the other would be more welcoming to the rock shows and things if when you're getting closer to the east, or on the Cleveland side of the states, or out west?
Well, I mean, rock for sure is very much centralized in the middle of the United States. The Midwest, Texas, a lot of that stuff. I mean, it's definitely also, once we kind of get out, the East Coast actually does really well for rock shows. I know a lot of people like to, are always asking us when we're going to play in Florida, and it's like there's just nowhere to play in Florida. Really. I mean, it's a huge Spanish community, and then country like on the top. The Panhandle, whatever.
Miami's about to.
But we hit a lot of them. The West Coast is definitely really tough for rock. It's not easy. And our biggest fan base is in the Midwest. We don't even play in California if we don't have to.
Yeah, what's that? What is that? Rock? They have a rock festival down there in Florida. Where is that at? Rock?
I think it's at Fort Rock or something. Fort Rock.
I can't remember, but you're right though. Florida is not. It's not known so much as a rock state. So
but the whole rock thing is beginning to kick off here. I work for a production company, so about the mid-April is when things seem to kick in here in Ohio, West Virginia,
okay.
Things like that, Kentucky. So
I just want to know when glam rock and hair bands are coming back, 'cause I'm going to be on that.
Bring them back.
Well, I think you missed it, man. I mean, what was it? Black Veil Brides. That was your glam rock right there. Came and went.
yeah, and it. Yeah,
or Steel Panther.
They'll never.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to see a whole like Def Leppard, Poison, Bon Jovi Part 2 of rock, of glam bands that hit pop again.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think what I've heard, and kind of what we've curved for, especially on this new record, is that a lot of the major labels at least in the rock industry, are looking for like a '90s grunge feel.
Yeah.
But a modern version of it.
Yeah, and I would be even okay with a Bryan Adams, Richard Marx Part 2. You just don't see any rock at all. I mean, you don't have your Richard Marx, Bryan Adams types. You don't have your Def Leppard, Bon Jovi. You don't have any of those bands that rock music that used to hit the pop charts is just not even acceptable anymore. Either that or nobody's playing it.
Who do we have other than bands that have been around for like 20 or 30 years, really, that are making it seems like?
Well, if you're looking for like a 70s throwback, you got what's that band? It's literally like the new Led Zeppelin. I actually thought it was
Greta
Led
Van
Zeppelin.
Fleet.
Yeah, Greta Van Fleet.
I thought it was Zeppelin too. I was like,
yeah, Jay played some of that for me at work, and I was blown away.
It was like a total Zeppelin like feel ripoff type.
Yeah.
It's like,
that dude's like 18 or something like that too. Is that right? He's very young. Yeah.
Yeah, they sound amazing live
like
too.
Kids.
That's crazy.
now with the rising of the EDM, they call it, and the dubstep and things, do you feel like it's getting to be the need, like I have to have electronic things in the music, or do you still feel even with heavy rock you can keep it traditional?
Or like, would you open up for Skrillex?
Yeah, it's all guitars and bass and and drums, you don't have to have the drum kicks and things like that, or because we've had many bands here through the valley at our venues, and Wayland is a perfect example of it's just what you hear on the stage. It's a guitar and a bass and drums, and it's all acoustic amplified, if you want to say that. But there's not a lot. And then we've had bands like Starset through where it's 100% electronic. So do you feel that's changed the hard rock as in the scene, or there's still room for keeping it all acoustic?
Well, I think electronics and rock has been around for forever. I mean, the industrial, all that stuff. I mean, there's been keyboards and crazy sounds. It's nothing new, and I do feel like the EDM, the whole like party drug thing is kind of coming to an end. I think people are like kind of cool, we get it. That's been kind of reigning king for the last 8-10 years, almost. I mean, I think when I started music, it had just like Skrillex had just come out, because I had played with Skrillex when he was in From First to Last. We opened up for him when I was like 18, and he was just this dude, and he dubstep wasn't even a thing. He even knew what it was. And then 2 years later, he's Skrillex and he's making $40 million a year with dubstep. But I would say like I guess for us specifically on this new record, we decided that all the programming we were going to do was going to be organic. So it was going to be stuff that we played that was on actual synthesizers, old school synthesizers, old school stuff. So none of it really comes from a computer per se. So, but it's I think there's always a place for cool textural things in music, no matter what. And at the end of the day, I think with technology these days, it just makes it easier, because now you don't have to have a keyboard player.
Me personally, I think it can be used too much. I'm not a big fan of your entire company being tracks. I think just personally
Yeah. Well, it should be something that complements your music, but it shouldn't be the driving factor of your music. Because then at the end of the day, it's like, well, why are you even up there?
I was disappointed. I'm allowed to say it because I'm a fan. But Bring Me the Horizon, I was very, very disappointed to go to their show and find out a majority of their company and background was tracks. And I loved their music. I was like, man, they're fucking awesome. And then go to the live show and it's all tracks.
That's the tough thing about music these days, is there's a lot of bands that get lucky with great songs or write the great songs, but don't really have the technical ability to perform them and play them really well. And generally, especially if you're on a major label or this and that, I mean, you're expected to be perfect. So I think there's a lot of pressure on these bands. But at the end of the day, my whole look at it is, well, go get in a room and practice your ass off, and don't just be like, well, I can't play it, so figure out how to play it. Figure out how to make your song sound great.
There may be some fans out there that don't understand. Like the drummer will have headphones on, and the inevitable click track is not really it's there to keep everybody together. I mean, you're in large stadiums, you're in areas where you just want to keep everybody together, and if the crowd's too loud, so.
Oh yeah, we're all on the same click. I mean, a click. I mean, if you're in the studio, you're playing to a click anyways. There's not a lot of bands these days that are playing free form. And it's not really necessary. It just makes it hard unless you're doing like a live record. It's kind of almost impossible to just make sound good. It just sounds messy, But if you're all on the same click, your band plays super tight, and I think playing to a click is just kind of a necessary thing.
I think one of the best things from a viewpoint was in-ear monitors. I think that do you play with in-ears or do you use wedges?
No, we play with in-ears because I don't trust monitor engineers to, because I've had guys blow my whole guitar up in my face in the middle of a show.
Yeah, it's just
crazy.
And just the stage, I mean, it cleans everything up without having those big, ugly things in front of you. It's, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, you don't have to play as loud now. You don't have to fight.
Those freaking wedges are the source of feedback, man. That's
you're exactly right. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's some times you can walk on the stage and you don't you can it's just quiet. It's when you don't have all the background noise and things. So.
Yep. Do you have so you have any of your monitors? You said you travel with a merch person. So I mean, how do you have one of your guys that are kind of
No. It's all pre-mixed in a box. So I have my whole setup, my whole mixer. I mix the band. It's all pre-done, and our sound in our ears is the same every night. Depending on the venue, it can change a little bit of the kind of the outside feel of the music. So everybody has like on their phones is connected to their own mix, and they can move it around how they want.
Oh, no, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So and then what helps with that is now we don't have it doesn't take us 10 minutes for everybody to get a monitor mix. We're done. We're ready to go. 5 minutes on a stage, it's like, all right, let's do this.
That has always been a thing. You see the videos of, okay, hit the kick drum for 15 minutes and then the snare, and it's like, you just let the band play and we'll get it all mixed together. And the in-ear monitors definitely has helped out with when you got a venue where you're playing 4 or 5 bands in a night. Sometimes we get 3 to 5 around here. So.
Yeah, it makes everything easier, and it's faster, and it's cleaner, and everyone's got their own setup, and it's efficient.
For those that have just tuned in or just joined us or whatever, we are talking to Mike Keller from Letters from the Fire. I'm sorry, and we've been talking to him for about an hour here now. Their album will be out, or not their album, but their first single will be out April 10th. And then your album, you said, comes out in around May?
Yeah, May, June-ish. Probably.
May, June-ish. Cool. Okay.
Mike, how did you come up with the band's name?
The band name is probably the one thing that we put the least amount of effort into all these years. I mean, Jay remembers when we were at Park Lane. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. It's funny.
Are you?
It's my pajamas now. I just wear old merch with pajamas. But
that was a song, wasn't it?
Letters from the Fire was the name of a song that our old singer Carly had written.
Oh, I thought Merch Pajamas was the song. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we really want to make merch onesies. But,
that'd be an interesting thing for sale.
But yeah, no. So we were trying to trademark the name Park Lane, but there's like a million hotels and name, with that name. So it was too general, so they wouldn't give it to us. And I was like, we went through pages and pages of names, and we saw, and I was like, what about Letters from the Fire? And the reason why we stuck with it was the symbol that was created out of the words. It just happened to be something that we could brand, and I mean, there's people all around the world with that tattooed on them, and it's really stuck, and people call us LFTF or don't say the full name, but I know it's a mouthful.
I would have had my hat on tonight, but it's getting a bunch of salt sweat marks all over it, so I didn't wear it. But I wear it to almost every concert I ever go to, and people are like, "Who's that? Letters from Fire? Oh yeah, I've heard of them." It's pretty cool.
That symbol, I think the symbol, and that's probably the best thing that came out of that name. So,
what's the what's going to be your favorite song off the new album? Do you have one that you can?
I would say one of the 2 singles, because it's a 1-2 punch when these come out. I can't really explain. I can't really say anything about them yet, but yeah, I mean, Come For You, and then we have a song called Harley, and it's just Harley comes out. I mean, you want to talk about traditional Letters from the Fire, but like also a song that where you hear it, you're gonna be like, what is this? And it's so mean and in your face, So I'm excited to play those live because I know the energy that is going to come out of it. I feel like those are going to be, I guess you could say the fans are going to love it. So,
what's the big running joke with tacos?
Oh man, I posted about tacos twice. I'm Hispanic and
he likes tacos.
I do. I love tacos. I mean, it's been a staple of my diet since I was a little kid. But people just started posting all these taco memes, and it just didn't stop. And then there's like a a letters from the taco like fan page, and it's it just kind of went out of hand. And it's funny because my family is always like, "What's with this taco crap?" You know.
Yeah, I get rode hard because
I was going to say we always give Craig shit about Taco Bell because he's like that's his favorite place on earth.
Yeah, actually, and it's funny because right here where we live at, there's let's see, there's going to be 1, 2.
El Mariachi, yeah.
Yeah, Mariachi. There's Taco Bell. There's this new one that they're transforming the old Taco Bell into another Mexican restaurant. We have like 5 Mexican restaurants within quarter mile.
And those are and by the way, the ones that are authentic, those are the only Hispanics that are in this town. This town is as wide as can be, but yet we have 5 Mexican restaurants.
And we have no rest area within like miles. So.
But yeah, I was just curious. What do you think about the Taco Bells with, of course you don't drink though, do you?
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't
for
drink.
you. He drinks a little bit.
I don't eat Taco Bell. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, is there a chance you'll be back out seeing your friends from Seether or Blackstone Cherry on tours this year?
I know when we were out with Blackstone Cherry, there was talk about, they were like, we really want to take you guys to Europe. And that's the goal for us. We're definitely trying to do that. We actually have Rob Caggiano from Volbeat actually did a solo on one of our singles. So he played on it, and they're actually the band is Danish. They're from Denmark. So, we're trying to work something out with them, especially because Nina's Danish. To go to Europe. But as far as Seether goes, I mean, I'm sure we'll see those guys on the road. They were so good to us and treated us really well. Their entire crew's amazing. And but yeah, I mean, we're just, I'll figure out what tours come in and we'll just start announcing them as we go.
Do you have things set up already that you just not or in the works that you just can't talk about?
Yeah, we're submitted for a lot of really cool things. At the end of the day, you just never know. You'll either get them or you won't, So our manager is doing his thing, and it'll help us a lot, obviously, when the video gets done, because he can use that as a reference point, especially because, everyone knows that we're getting a new singer, so they're trying to figure out what's going on with the band. So it kind of put us back a little bit in a timeline-wise. But, once everything kind of comes back on track, it should just go forward. We should be announcing tours after tours after tours.
So since you talked about this European tour, that made me think. So Nina herself, does she have more fans in the States or in Europe?
It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I know she got her old band signed in L.A. She came to L.A.
Okay.
And so I know she has a lot of L.A. fans in general. But I'm not. I just think her sound, and because of who she is, that people in Europe they're gonna embrace it. Especially coming with an American band, it's always something that's really interesting to the European crowd.
That is one thing about Europeans, man. They know how to rock. I have, you see shows with the arenas and all that posted over there, and it's just they go ape shit over rock and roll. I think.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, there was this one YouTube thing out there I saw where they had an entire stadium singing Bohemian Rhapsody, and it was like I don't know how many thousands of people that were in that. It was like a soccer stadium or something or other. Maybe it's Wembley. I can't remember where, but yeah, I mean they go ape shit over the rock music.
Well, I think they appreciate music, especially American music, so much more because they don't get it every day. There really isn't rock radio in Europe, so you're not like, here you're basically you get the same 10 songs shoved in your face all day, every day, and you can see any band. You can see them in January, and then you can see them again in March, and then you can see them again. Probably 3 times a year, most likely, especially in rock, because we're just always on the road. But in Europe, it's like if you get a band, like whoever, whatever band you like, it's probably the first time or only the one time a year that they'll be able to see them. So I think to them it's more of a novel. It's just so much more exciting, I guess you could say.
So what kind of music do you listen to when you work out?
Like when I work out?
Well, or anything in general, I guess. I mean,
well, you know,
what's
I
on your
kinda go
iPod?
through these weird music spells. So when I write, I don't listen to any rock at all. No metal, nothing like that. It's a lot of like hip hop or pop or just whatever weird stuff I can find. At the gym, I listen to hip hop. I need something with with a very like specific rhythm. Right. If I'm deadlifting, I listen to death metal because that's the only thing that gets me pissed off enough to lift 600 pounds. But yeah, no, I don't have any specific musical likes. Like I don't have a favorite band. I'm kind of weird like that, and I think I weird a lot of people out because they're like, oh, what's your favorite music? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, it's always interesting. I mean, we've had country artists roll through our town here a few times, and just sometimes to talk to them. And there's this one guy I know, Jason Schmidt. He's a drummer. He's played for Jason Michael Carroll. You probably don't know who he is, but there's several country artists that he plays, hired gun for. Mm-hmm. But that's not what he's totally not country music. He's, to find out what a person listens to is usually the opposite of what they play.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something where I see that a lot is in the bigger bands. A lot of the bigger bands do not listen to the genre that they're in, and a lot of the smaller bands that I feel like are in kind of have hit a wall are usually only listening to the bands in the genre, so they're writing a lot of the same stuff. And I feel like if you're gonna bring something to your genre, you have to bring it from outside perspectives and different things. I mean, how insane was it when Linkin Park came out and the rap and rock and that whole thing, and everyone was like, "What is this?" It blew everyone's mind.
Right.
It was so different. No one ever thought that could happen. So I think it's actually beneficial for people in music to listen outside of what they do.
I don't know, man. Though, just picturing Five Finger Death Punch listening to Ed Sheeran.
Oh, well, here's the thing. If you don't think Five Finger Death Punch, if you think those guys don't listen to hip hop, those guys listen to hip hop. Because a lot of those songs are hip hop songs with heavy guitars.
Yeah.
They're fooling all you.
I feel like I'm in good company then, because I'm a lot like Mike. I don't listen to any one particular. I mean, I listen to rock genre more than anything. A lot of heavy metal, a lot of stuff like Letters from the Fire and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'll lay at home and listen to classical once in a while. Ed Sheeran, Shape of Your Body. I love that song, man. I think that's an awesome song. And I know Mike's done some stuff on Facebook, where he's playing around on the piano or on the guitar, and he'll do some. You did Bieber, didn't you? One of them.
I did Bieber. Yeah. I did That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do, yeah.
I did a Backstreet Boys song on guitar.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't corral somebody and say, oh, they're this kind of person because they listen to this kind of music, or they do this or they do that. I mean, I grew up around country music, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Hank, kind of stuff my dad listened to, but I just don't prefer that kind of music. I pretty much anything but country I'll listen to, and yeah. I'm pretty open to a lot of that stuff, and that's why I enjoy going to music. I mean, for me, that's one of my big, makes me feel good to go see live music, and especially when a band is really into their music, as Letters from the Fire are. I can attest to it. I've known Mike 6, almost 7 years now. Yeah. When they were Park Lane, I just kind of hit it off with Clay, their bass player. He was introduced to me from a friend of mine from high school. And it just kind of blossomed from there, and then watching them play and seeing how they enjoy the music, and it kind of get me excited. It's like, wow, people really do like their music, and they get into it, and some bands maybe they're not like that, but I can tell you that for a fact that when you go see Letters from the Fire, you're getting a good show. Their music sounds like what they've recorded. They're down to earth guys, gals, and they're fun to be around, and I'm glad to call them friends.
I appreciate that, Jay. You're a good friend, my friend.
From an equipment point of view, we touched on you using in-ear monitors and things. Do you like to go with the traditional, like Marshall stack and a and a Fender Strat made in USA, or are you more leaning towards the boutique style of amps and equipment and things like that?
So Cameron and I play Bogner Uberschalls, which is like basically a hot rodded Marshall JCM 800. And then we have some tricks up our sleeves on how we kind of overload the front of it to get a really mean guitar sound. And then, Clayton plays a Fafner, which is like a Swedish company bass amp that almost no one has ever heard of or seen, but it's probably the meanest sounding bass amp there is. And it's funny, he has these two like square cabinets. I think they're old SWRs, and I think they're like 30 years old. And I can't even believe they're still like functioning, but those destroy any Ampeg cabinet any day, as far as clarity and thump, and everyone always wants to use them because they're just so like insane sounding. As far as guitars go, I don't think we can play the music we play with a Fender Strat, to be totally honest. So we play, we're endorsed by ESP, and so we play those exclusive.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had any guitar endorsements or any other endorsements. Is guitar the only endorsement you have, or is your in-ears and all this?
Then oops, I think
Skype's cutting out. Yeah.
Played.
Well, not having a guitar tech, do you have to do a lot of switching out? I mean, we've had some groups through where it seemed like every song was a specific guitar because it was tuned to that specific chord or tuning or like that. Are you able to, you said that you've got a minimal amount of equipment to carry on. You can you don't have to carry one of the huge cases of guitars that's got like 8 or 10 guitars in it.
No, I mean, so we
his Skype froze.
Oh, he froze.
See if we get him back.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back. Skype's just been cutting out occasionally. Oh, we lost him again. Hey, we did have a question from Michael Davis. Is Larry napping? LOL. It's funny, Larry, because when you look down at your phone, it looks like you're nodding off, is what it is.
Well, what most people don't know is I work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I'm always tired by the time Sunday comes around.
Yeah, Mikey Mike says he likes your gangster toboggan there.
Are we allowed to call you like the king of DVDs and Blu-rays, Larry, or is that the...
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
Did we lose them all together?
I don't know. Well, look here.
Yeah, he said I got like 20,000.
Yeah, it's. Is it working now? Are we going? Oh. You got me? Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Keeps freezing.
Jeez.
He froze up a little bit. I was asking you about...
Yeah, do you play more than one guitar, basically, during a set?
No, I actually play one. So I play in drop B, or Cameron and I play in drop B. We have one song in A, and our pedal drops it down.
Oh, okay.
So that we don't have to change. And then all the other songs that were written and played on different guitars and different tunings, we just transpose them.
Okay.
And then Clayton as well. Clay plays one bass and drop in B standard, and he transposes everything. So like we're in drop tunings, and he just plays it in standard.
Okay, that was another question I had, kind of related to is, basically hard rock is all based on distortion guitar, right? That's basically the main sound. Do you use all digital effects?
As far as, I don't use a lot of effects, so I use a tube amp.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering whether you get your distortion sound through a digital pedal or whether you actually use an amplifier.
No, what we did use on this record we use a lot of really cool fuzz pedals, but they're all analog. And kind of the whole goal on this record was to make it not sound like every other rock record. A lot of rock records are super tuned, super to the grid, super slick and clean sounding, and I feel like that sound is kind of stale. So we actually decided to do full performances. So like pretty much everything you're going to hear are full on takes throughout the whole songs. And everything, all the sounds we made, like I said, everything was done from our hands. It wasn't computerized. We didn't go with your traditional like distortion sound that you get on most rock records. We did this really interesting thing where we would play the high root note on the guitar, and then we'd play the fifth of the chord on a bass. It's kind of the what's that band? The Highly Suspect feel. They do a lot of cool stuff with that type of vibe. So really, actually the second single called Harley, it's actually, I think there's one guitar on it, and everything was played on like several basses.
So is that going to be a tough sound to reproduce live for you?
No, I mean it's an artistic subtle thing that people will feel, but when you're in a room where things are just blowing up in your face, you're not going to know the difference.
Yeah.
We'll match the sound pretty closely. We got all the pedals that we used to get that really, really cool kind of. It's not a super distorted guitar tone. It's actually there's very low gain, but when it's all put together, it sounds huge.
So everything that's old is new. You're getting back into that AC/DC, Van Halen. What was it? Rolling Stones were the ones that first did the fuzz with the Satisfaction. So definitely can bring in some older fans as well as new fans for the rock.
Hey, we had another fan.
I think it's just it's a cool sound. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We just had another fan, Mark Rethwish from Boise, Idaho. Says, love from Boise, Idaho. Keep rocking, Mike.
Awesome. Oh, cool. Hey, Mark. Good to see you, brother. Or hear from you.
Are you going to have some kind of an album release party? And do you know, if so, do you know where it's going to be at yet? That's still way out there.
I mean, hopefully we're on the road, and I guess our party will be in the hotel room, just giving each other high fives.
Hey, so speaking of the album release, so you talked about you are your own label, correct?
Yeah.
So who does the A&R functions? Who calls all the radio stations and says, I got a single for you, can you play it? Who do I mail it to, blah, blah, blah.
So basically, what we did is we studied what labels do. Labels are basically a glorified bank. They're basically they have a team, and they give you money, and then they take percentages of your band for that money, and hopefully, and you're stuck with that team. You're hoping to God that their team is legit enough to do what they need to do for your band. So what we did is we said, okay, well, you can hire a team, you can do all the same stuff without giving away 80% or 85% of your band, So what we did is we hired a great radio team, we use Landshark, and those guys are just insane.
They do tons of records. Do those functions for you. Okay.
Yeah, they do stuff for Maynard and all that stuff. They got Worth the Pain to 21. That was our first, top 30 song or whatever. And so you get a radio team, you get a PR person, and then you just hire that PR person for a max amount, just for basically promoting the record and getting it to where it needs to be. And then we have a marketing guy who basically helps us with, our social media stuff and things like that. And then you have your manager. Really, at the end of the day, your manager is getting you the tours. Labels don't really get you tours. And we have a booking agent as well.
So do you think you're getting more, well, obviously I think you're getting more bang for your buck from satellite. I mean, it seems like the radio, we've talked about, terrestrial and satellite radio here. Do you normally work more towards radio first and then satellite, or do you work more towards satellite and then towards radio? Or is it all come out at the same time?
Well, yeah, satellite. So Vinny he's the program director at Octane, and he won't play your song unless you're also doing a full radio campaign to all radio, because he cares about everything. You're also not going to be on Octane unless you're doing 300 singles a week. So you basically there's a lot of things. There's also if he doesn't like your band, he won't play your band. So it all works together. Everything is timing. I think as far as the money from radio, the most that we get, Octane pays the most out. And then there's, Spotify and streaming and stuff like that. And
that just went up, didn't it?
But yeah, Octane pays the most royalties.
Now, do you do well with Google Play Music and iTunes on single sales?
iTunes, we do. Yeah, absolutely. We did really great on the Worth the Pain with Give In to Me, which was the first single. And then Worth the Pain was the second single, but we didn't release it as a single, so we don't really have those like numbers, in the sense of it being an individual track on iTunes. But iTunes, I mean, here's the thing: in the next 2 years, they're going to phase out downloading anyways. Everything is going to go to streaming. So, really at the end of the day, I think what most bands should focus on is getting on those really great playlists on Spotify, because that's really where the world's going to go, unfortunately.
I was going to say, I wondered if that was, some of the bands when they first come out, Spotify was like the devil. You don't get on Spotify. We don't get much out of it. Stay away from it. Don't play. Stream from it. Now it seems like everything's kind of shifting from that to make sure you follow us on Spotify, because that's where you're going to get the latest.
So interesting news came out this week. Me being in the technology field here, interesting news came out this week is that Apple Music subscriptions are just about to pass Spotify in total number of users. They're almost neck and neck.
Oh,
yep.
That's interesting.
Well, speaking of getting your music out, there seems to be a vinyl trend that here we haven't. Have you released any? Do you have any ideas of releasing a 45 of a single, or maybe releasing a limited production run of the next album, or maybe future albums?
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens. I mean, it's definitely, I see it. It's definitely a trend that's coming up, but it's very specific to some bands. Not every band has, I mean, you if you can get at least 15 to 20% of your sales vinyl, then it makes sense. But if you're selling 10 vinyls, it's too expensive to print. I think what we're thinking about doing is having the record come out, seeing how it does, and then doing basically a one of those, what is it called? It's a Kickstarter, but it's not really a Kickstarter. We're basically just pre-selling it, where if there's enough interest, we'll make them. And if it doesn't hit a certain mark, then we just won't make it, and everybody can keep their money, because it has to make sense. It's like I said, we're super lean, and we care very much about the numbers, and so they have to make sense.
Yeah, it could be something you could insert into some type of VIP package for limited production if you pay the extra amount, for early bird, things like that.
The albums are very pricey to make too. Yeah. Now, the records.
Yeah,
you have to order like, at least 1,000 of them or 100 of them or something, and they're really expensive. That's why they're like $30 and $40 at the record store right now, because they cost so much to make.
But you get a bigger picture of the band, and you can stick it up on your wall, and then you get the inserts and
get them
all the biographies and get it autographed. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of the younger fans have missed. I mean, I grew up in the late 70s and 80s of it. There were times when if you didn't have you were not on vinyl, that you couldn't get played in for maybe more dance music, but even rock, because nobody had a cassette deck or an 8-track or anything. It had to go on a turntable. But now, as we're talking, that we're transitioning now from that, there's going to be a time where you're not going to be buying per song to download it, that you're going to be paying a fee per month to hear the music you want to enjoy.
I personally like buying it, like get the physical copy, regardless. Most it's going to be digital anyway, but for me, I like to get the CD, especially for for the bands that I really like, and then I'll usually put them on the computer and I'll upload them into like my Google Play or whatever, and then I'll stream them from there for my personal use. And then if I want to, like if I'm going somewhere where I know I'm not going to have any network connectivity or anything or any cell phone service, then I can download those songs straight to my phone, and then I've got my own playlist. And that's just the kind of way that I've been. I prefer that.
I do too.
I kind of like the imperfections of records still sometimes. I still remember listening to some of the Destroyer, the first Kiss album. The imperfection of the crackling. I mean, I know digital is better sounding, but just something about listening to some of those older albums, some of the Led Zeppelins and things like that, it's on having the crackling. It just
not the digitally remastered.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. For me, it adds more nostalgic to it.
I wore out the Love Gun album.
Oh yeah,
it was an awesome album.
And that's something also in the works you can get into, Mike, is that at some point in time, I remember they said that Kiss didn't really start blowing up until you had to hear them live, and then they did the live album, and so then that's when things really started picking up. Have you had that idea possibly to do a live album sometime?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the hardest part about this for us is that we always have all these ideas, but we always get put back to level one because we got to get a new singer. So it's always kind of like
you feel like you've been starting over. Okay, I got you.
I did think of a couple other questions I wanted to ask you. Now, do you pay for studio time, or does one of the band members have a good home studio that you use?
So I have a studio, but that's just for writing. And I produce bands out here in California, help them out. But as far as like for this record, we went with this producer named Colin Britton, and he's at a studio in LA. So we went out there for 3-4 weeks. And we used the big room for, the real drums, live drums, because we really wanted the whole record to sound real and expensive. So it's a lot of, all the gear. This record doesn't sound like it was made in a computer because it wasn't. All his, everything he's EQing and all that stuff is all outboard gear. It's just, it's going to sound different than a lot of the records coming out.
That live sound really, we've gone through, Pat Benatar and Joan Jett and things. They did Sound City out there, and they had the documentary for it in California. And then everything got electronic in the 80s, and then the boys from Seattle dropped in the bus, and Smells Like Teen Spirit came out. Like, what is this? And it was all about the studio and the Neve console and things like that. So everything comes back around again. I
did read your Wikipedia article today and saw that you had picked Colin as your producer, by the way, and that was something I was curious about, is how did you make that decision? Because I saw 5 Seconds of Summer on his resume, and that's one of the bands my daughter listens to.
Our whole thing was, again, we wanted this record. We didn't want it to sound like Worth the Pain. We didn't want to sound like every other rock band coming out, because at the end of the day, sales. And I know the sales of all these bands. I see them on the reports, from my manager all the time. So I know what's going on in the industry. And at the end of the day, there's something going on in the fact that a lot of these traditional heavy bands that are like this they're failing, and they're not selling records. And the sound is changing. Rock is about to change. There's something new is coming, and we didn't want to sound like a slick rock band with the same big, huge kick snare sound, because after a while, that stuff sounds stale, and it's so digital, and it's, and there is something about a live feel or performance feel that is just different. There's a vibe. If you ever listen to I know you guys have listened to Appetite.
It stopped.
Yep.
We listened to Appetite.
Appetite.
Were you going to say? You said the word Appetite. Were you going to say GNR's album?
Yeah, Appetite for Destruction. Sorry, I got frozen. But what's amazing about that record is it's not perfect at all. it's out of tune, but it's so mean, and there's something to be said about vibe, which, you know, I think it's something that a lot of people, they hear it and they feel it, but they don't know what it is. And as a
musician,
just lost the.
What was the one sound they said that came back? It was the Phil Collins, the drum sound, the reverse.
yeah, sorry, what was the last thing I said?
Reverse reverb on the drums has made a comeback. You know, things hadn't
I'm not sure I know what reverse reverb is.
we got as a musician, Mike, is what you said.
It's the sound you hear it on In the Air Tonight, where it goes da 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 da. It just makes the drums
it almost
sound
sounds
really
like he's playing them
huge.
backwards.
Yeah, and that's Prince used them a lot and things like that.
Miami
But,
Vice theme song or something.
But going back to the raw sound,
sorry. I got cut off there for a second.
You were saying as a musician,
But
something.
oh yeah, as a musician, you strive to. I mean, if you could get something that sounds like that, it's a big deal, you know. And it's something that not a lot of people can get, and mostly just because they don't either have the time to do it, you know. Because the label's like, here's $2,000, do your whole record, and it's like, what? How am I supposed to do a full record for $2,000? You know.
And I assume you sound like you're pretty confident. You sound like you're pretty confident that you did achieve that then on this record.
We're really proud of it, the way it sounds and the way it's going.
You cut out again, but we got the general idea.
We got it freezing again.
That's great.
You were commenting how good the Skype was coming in a little bit ago.
Yeah.
You jinxed.
Jinx.
A lot of records that we hear all the time, you know, like when you go back to, you know, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, where they try and say, well, we learned to play in the studio, and, you know, just the camaraderie and just, you know, playing the songs over and over again that you just the rock is created there in the studio. So.
Now, something we haven't really talked too much about around the fans.
Mike, I'm gonna drop you to audio only, and hopefully that'll take care of some of this.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, we did.
Over there, okay. But around the fans, something that I notice is you've got some that it seems like you have some bands that, you know, they're up and coming, they're, you know, no problem. Let's meet after the, you know, dip pictures with you, this and that. And then it seems like once they become big, they forget about where they come from. You know, like some bands that are not like that, as a good example, I would use an example would be like Pop Evil. They've never really changed from being down with their fans. I mean, it's just that's one of the things I'm more so to buy a ticket to go to a show to see somebody that appreciates where the money's coming from and where and who's doing it. And I just think sometimes some bands just become complete douchebags once they break that level of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think. In the MySpace days, I remember I'd come back from school and I would sit and I would read every message and you just kind of get engaged with these people's lives and these fans and you know, I mean, there's fans I've been following this band since I was like 16, you know, some variation of it, and I think what I've always learned is that, you know, I think that the time of the mysterious rock star and we're too good and, you know, like there's a barrier between us and the fans like that, I think that time is over, and it's been over for a long time. And I think what makes the rock community so cool is the closeness that is achieved between bands and fans.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just that to me that's always kind of been what this was about, was the connection and what does your song mean to people, you know, especially when you get messages like, hey, your song saved my life, and just these things that, you know, because at the end of the day, I'm just some kid in California, you know, like that's who I am. I go to the gym occasionally and I eat a lot of food. I'm just some guy that got lucky, and I've worked hard to do what I do, but really at the end of the day, who am I, you know? So for someone across the country or someone going through something in life to, I guess, to have an emotional connection to what I've created and to care enough to listen to what I have to say is just mind-blowing. And it's, who am I to scoff at that person? You know what I mean? Like, we can't do this without the fans. It's impossible.
You know, and a couple more bands that are very surprising that are not that way either is like Papa Roach and even Five Finger Death Punch. As high as they are on the earth and rock and roll, if you are in Vegas and you see one of the guys walking around, they're awesome to take the time to talk to you. Chris Cale, I mean, he's pictures, whatever, and you know, and they're humbled. They thank you for. It's just. I hope you're right, Mike. I hope that that period is over with, because it's. If I get forgot, I'll forget to buy a ticket. I mean, that's just the way I am. I think that it should go both ways.
Well, I think it's over in the sense that being mysterious isn't cool anymore, and no one engages in that anymore. Whether or not a band is going to take that to heart is that's going to be up to them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I get that.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you can make a fan for life in one conversation, or you can lose a fan for life with one sentence. And you know, at the end of the day, I'm a fan. I know what it's like, and it sucks when someone you look up to or you're into, like, you know, totally just doesn't care about you, you know. And again, there is a balance, because we also have our own personal lives, and sometimes with social media, it's pretty tough.
Yep.
Because everyone's like involved in what you're doing all the time, you know. But at the end of the day, there's no reason why you should not be good to your fans.
Right. Okay. I just thought of another question whenever you were talking here, and I just lost it.
I was going to comment on what you were just saying, because and I think what we talked about earlier has a lot to do with that. The fact that now that you can't make $1 million on just having a hit single, you've got to be nice to the fans, man. You've got to sell tickets. You've got to sell merch, and to get out there and do that, you know, you can't be blowing off fans and being a dick.
Absolutely. It just doesn't work. You know, it's not what you want. It's an emotional thing. Music is emotional, and you know, it's not a business transaction between you and a client. This is an emotional connection, and emotional connections can be damaged or enriched. So
how old are you, Mike? Do you mind if me asking?
I'm 28.
28. Yeah, I've got a son that's 26 this year, so that's you're very mature for your.
I totally agree.
Age. So
I appreciate that. I'm trying.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that kind of drew me to him. It's like, you know, he is a younger guy, but he's mature, and I've appreciated, you know, all the things he's talking about, being from a fan base. You know, just meeting them and then kind of growing with them and going along with their thing. You know, Mike's always kind of been there for me, as you know, I can look over here to Scott and say, hey, you know, want to help me out with this or something. And I feel like, you know, with Mike, it's the same thing. You know, he's in a band, he's still a person, he's still a human being, and he's, you know, we've built an emotional relationship based off of, you know, the music, and that's what he brings to me that helps me out. You know, listening to that music has helped me, you know, 10 times over. Listen, you know, not just their music, but music in general. Sometimes you get into a place where you're like, I really feel like I need something to pick me up here. Some, you know, I don't do drugs, I don't drink a lot, but you know, let me listen to some music.
Yeah, Jay, with the things that you've been through, with your, I could see where music could be a definite. Music has a power to heal.
And one of the things I'll say, Mike, is just somebody who's only met you tonight. It's just the way you come across is like you're such a nice guy, you're such a sincere guy, and you're a caring guy. And to me, that's not what you think of as the rock persona. But I could see where the fans would really bond to you and identify with you and really like you because of the way that you come across.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, like I said, I very much care about the people I interact with, and I'd like to think that I was raised to be a sociable person and to just engage with with other humans on this planet.
One of the comments I always put on his
So-
Facebook page when people are being stupid, I'm like, just don't be a dick or something like that. It's like, just kind of like what Scott said, just don't be a dick. I mean, just
Yeah, and because I'll give you a perfect example. A couple weeks ago, when we interviewed the guy from Waylon.
Yeah.
Now that guy came across as a rocker to me. He was like a smart ass, and he was funny.
Yeah,
And that like, man, that guy, that's the rock image. And Mike, you just seem like
Hardened. He's very hardened.
The guy next door. You're like the guy next door.
Well, the dudes in Wayland have been doing it for a long time too, and they're really cool guys. They're really funny, and
Definite
I think
road warriors.
I think what keeps me sane in doing this music is that I play a part when I'm when I'm on tour, and that's my part. And then when I come home, I'm just Mike. I have a family, I have friends, I have people that I engage with here that know I'm in a band but don't care. So you can't be Mr. Rockstar all the time.
What was the guy's name from Waylon we interviewed?
Phil Valencia.
So Phil, so the first thing we got Phil on Skype, and the first thing we say to Phil is, "Phil, how are you?" And he goes, "Cold as fuck." And so it was.
You had mentioned you're touring in. You got the trailer and you got a Sprinter van. Is the Sprinter? Is it decked out with a toilet and bunks and things like that, or is it just something to ride in? So when you're on tour, that you have to have a place to stay, like a motel.
No, we stay in hotels every night. We like to shower. We're a very clean band, especially having a female on the band. It's kind of, and it's nice. I don't want to be stuck in a van.
Clay's
all day
probably got to
and sleep in
condition
a
that
van,
hair.
It's for sanity's sake.
That could be where part of the fire comes from Waylon with the was it the old '97 bus that when Waylon was riding around, they actually had a bus they were riding on that.
Yeah, they've upgraded.
They have that. It's that. What is it called? It's like a bandwagon, but it's from. I remember I was talking to the guy. He was telling me they bought it super cheap from some company that used it to transport workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just used it to tour. Yeah.
Hey, we even got another fan comment on our Facebook video feed. Christina Quattrapani, I hope I pronounced that correctly, says, "Mike is an amazing guy."
Oh, well, she's very sweet.
So you mentioned family. We haven't talked too much about your family. Did you come from a big family, or?
I definitely, I have a big, as far as my immediate family, I have 2 brothers and a sister. Very close. All my uncles and my grandmas and grandpas, they all live here as well. I have a huge family in Mexico. I'm very family oriented. It's definitely very important to me.
So is Hispanic on your mother's side? Because Keller doesn't sound very Hispanic to me.
Yeah, Kelly. I have a stepfather, so it's Hispanic on my mom's side.
I had the same thing running through my head as soon as you said that.
Yeah, a lot of people get confused.
Keller, that's not Hispanic.
Yeah.
That's cool. So were you born in Mexico, or were you born in California, or?
I was born in California.
You ever do the Sammy Hagar's birthday bash? That's just, you're in Southern California, right?
No, I'm in the Bay Area, so I'm like about 40 minutes south of San Francisco.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm a huge Hagar fan. I never made it to their birthday bash before. I didn't know if maybe you'd ever been to a Hagar fan or Van Halen fan, or?
I'm definitely a Van Halen fan. I'm more of a David Lee Roth fan, but I have gone to Cabo Wabo many times in Cabo, and I know that's I believe that's a Hagar place.
Yes, it is.
Now that I know you're in the Bay Area, I want to know if you're into tech. I mean, Google, Apple, Berkeley is all there.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I went to college here and I got my business degree. I mean, actually, funny enough, I'm in cryptocurrency.
Wow. Do you
so
mine?
I trade that stuff.
Do you mine?
Are you a Litecoiner? Please tell me you are.
Oh, I absolutely got Litecoin, but I don't mind. I'm more of I more just trade.
Okay.
On a daily basis, and I've learned all the the Elliott wave and all those charts, and all my friends they're all Apple guys and Google, and that's pretty much, if you grew up here, all your friends are pretty much doing that. I'm the black sheep of
and
the
so
friends.
You're gonna have to teach me, Mike. I don't know how to do that Fibonacci crap and all that stuff. I don't read all that.
Two questions. Mac or PC, iOS or Android?
Oh my.
iOS.
And Mac or PC?
Mac.
I was going to say, usually musicians are more Mac than PC.
I still think Windows XP Service Pack 3 is,
okay,
is pretty much all you need.
So production, are you Pro Tools?
Pro Tools HD, baby.
Yep.
All the way.
So does that? You mentioned earlier about Pro Tools. I don't know how to play an instrument. Do you, when you play an instrument, does it decipher what notes automatically? I mean,
when you're recording?
Yeah.
No, it's just, I mean, you play music and it just takes a source. It's no different than plugging into an amp and then your signal being amplified of what you're playing.
Pro Tools looks exactly like Audacity, Craig. It's just like a Mac version.
Yeah, I knew that.
Now, you'd mentioned when you were recording that everybody comes to the studio. You're not doing any remote type of ISDN line where you've got the bass players in his studio and he's tracking things, and then you put it together. Everybody comes to your studio or what you've rented, so everybody's together when things are recorded.
Well, I mean, if we're writing, it's just at my house. Like, I'll just play the bass lines, and then once the song is written, Clayton will figure out what he wants to do, and when we actually go to do the official record, he'll play his bass lines. But I pretty much record everything. I program all the drums, put everything down, samples and stuff, and then Nina will either fly up or she'll go to a studio in LA because she's in LA, and do stuff. But when we do the actual record, it's a band thing. We all need to be together. It's that's how you get that vibe,
So that does make me think of. So when you do the demo, are you laying down the original vocal track yourself then to give Nina or whoever an idea of what it should sound like?
No, generally, and then, well, like I said, so like on this particular record, all the melodies and vocals were like 90% done.
I see.
So a lot of the writing was done around her vocal, or just basically enhancing what was done musically. Because she had like Josh Freese did a lot of cool stuff on her stuff. She did a song with John 5 that I wrote a whole thing on, and so that was just a different process. But usually, like, I'll just do all the music, drums and bass, and then I'll send it to a singer, and I just go, good luck.
Okay. That was the question. I guess with writing in the past, how would you do the demo? So that answers that.
Do you have anybody who's, what I want to call it, sweetening the tracks after? It was, I guess, one of the most popular ones was if you heard the original Zac Brown tracks, and then then when he
wants to know if you auto-tune your stuff.
Well, not necessarily auto-tune, but
does your music sound like T-Pain
for you?
I mean, there's almost no.
You're mixing it all.
At the end of the day, everybody gets tuned, no matter who you are. Right. Celine Dion gets vocally tuned,
right?
But at the end of the day, it's about how it's performed, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a vibe. I mean, almost everything that Nina did is so close on that she's gonna sound like the record. Mm-hmm. And that's always what and Alexa was the same thing. She sounded like the record. She just had this huge voice, and we never, we can't have a singer that can't perform the songs. That sounds like crap, and it sucks. And the same with musically. Like when you hear us, it's going to sound like the record.
And it seems like the fans seem cheated if you don't sound close to the record. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they're great on the record, but live, you got to be live. Really good live. For the fans to get involved, I think. So.
Well, there's a lot of crap singers out there that sound great on the record, and then you go see them live and you're like, this is garbage. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not gonna watch this because that's fake. You know, it's not real. Like, you don't actually have the skills to perform your music. And you know, obviously, I'm not gonna name names, but I think if you're gonna be in this industry and if you want to have longevity, you better learn your stuff and be great. You know, there's too many amazing musicians out there that will take your spot.
I mean, there was one. It was Go Shakira or something like that. There was one that we saw at Rock on the Range a couple years ago. It was like,
Gojira?
Huh? What is it?
Gojira?
Gojira.
No, that's not it. That is not it for sure. No, actually, they were on the marquee when we were up at when we were waiting in line for Nothing More. Remember, I said, "Man, those guys. I see why they're in the."
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember their name, but man, Missy and I, we listened to them before we went up there. Like, man, they sound awesome, and we went and saw them live. And it's a good point. They sucked live. So
Gojira is amazing live.
Yeah,
that's
what I was gonna say.
That's not it.
That's not who he's talking about.
That is definitely not.
I remember what you're. Yeah,
I've been to a lot of concerts, and two of the worst concerts I ever went to, which is going to surprise everybody. I saw Metallica in 1986. It was the worst show I'd ever seen. They were horrible.
Oh, wow.
I could see that in 1986.
They opened up for Ozzy. Ozzy was amazing. And then I saw in 86, Guns N' Roses opened up for Aerosmith. Guns N' Roses was horrible. Axl was having problems with his voice. And I wasn't even an Aerosmith fan, and those guys just blew it away.
Oh,
man.
my God.
Those
I
guys
wish
were
Aerosmith
amazing.
would get their shit together.
They were freaking amazing.
I love Aerosmith. That's just one. We saw them. I saw them like 4 times one year. It was just they're amazing live. They're one of the kind that you would never hear a track out of them. They just get up there and just rock it out.
What amazes me is when these artists get older, sometimes they take the music down an octave. Mm-hmm. Aerosmith is still singing it in the original key.
Steven Tyler is a machine.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a beast. I mean, that guy is just so, you know. I mean, they're also one of the few bands from that era that was able to reinvent their sound and still be huge. You know, like.
And they don't need. They don't have to write another song ever. I mean, them and Van Halen's another good example.
Oh, yeah, hell, there's already too many. They've got more hit singles than you can even sing in a 3-hour concert.
You know, Kiss's new albums sucked. You know, the last
2 or 3 new albums.
Yeah, they were horrible.
Yeah,
but they're
original
classics.
Stuff.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what Larry's saying with Metallica. So that I would take the 2017 Metallica over the 1986 Metallica any day.
Oh yeah,
as far as sound and
it's like they lose their edge or something or other. They need to go back to smoking the herbs and
stuff. But if they could play that music, you know, from 1986 today and sound like, I mean, because the stuff that they wrote, you know, back then was just incredible to me. I love that shit.
I did get to see Cliff, you know, which was cool, but like I said, it was their last day on that tour, and all he did was screw around, like pull each other's pants down and throw toilet paper. I mean, they were just like, you know, not professional at all. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, and I think James had a broken wrist, so he didn't get to play guitar. Guitar Tech was playing the guitar. It just sounded bad. It seems like the opening band, it seems like the sound guy always sabotages them. I don't know why. The opening band always sounds bad. I don't know why.
Well, so I can tell you why. So this is why we started taking a sound guy, because like I know for a fact that our natural sound is good, and if you make us sound like crap, it's because you either suck at sound or you're doing it on purpose. And so I started calling out sound guys because like I was you know, I produce and I mix. I know how to, you know, cut frequencies. And I was like, dude, you're not cutting any frequencies. I went behind the board. I was like, you didn't do anything. And I was mad because I'm like, dude, this is a Seether run, you know, like, and I'm like, well, who is this guy? Who's doing our sound? Because Seether has their own sound guy who's amazing. And I went to the production office. I was like, who is this? The house sound guy? And they're like, no, we wanted to save some money, so we just got some dude.
Oh no!
Exactly. Yeah.
If you like hiring me, I'd be in there just
because
I can contend with that on
these big venues. Their house sound guys are great sound guys usually, but they're expensive, right? So, and if Seether's coming in and they're getting paid however much money, they're like, well, how can we cut corners? Who cares about the opening bands?
Yeah.
I can remember being on a country tour.
We picked up a sound guy halfway through the tour. I was like, screw this.
I can remember being on a country tour, and the band was great, but you know, the manager guy was the sound guy because he just happened to be on the tour, and it's like, what? Why is this guy here? Oh, well, he's on the bus. So yes, it's definitely a good idea to have if you're not comfortable with you know, the house guy doing it, that you've got somebody that knows what you're supposed to sound like, as opposed to trying to, well, okay, here's just another band through.
I'm gonna say, aren't most of them now though with like the X32s? Can't you just get a thumb drive, plug it in? It should already, I mean, be close for most of the.
You can, but the problem is, it's not every venue is using an X32, and also every room is different. So every room gets sound treated differently. Yeah. So either way, you still have to have a guy that knows what he's doing, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
that comes from education. I mean, Dave Ratt, Red Hot Chili Peppers engineer for several years, will, that he chooses to make it sound good in the headphones, so that he knows what it's supposed to sound like, and that's a good thing. You've got something to start with, and then you make the room sound so that it fits together, that you're not just adjusting everything and not really. I know a lot of venues, they seem to like to have the venue SC48s or whatever, and they say, oh, well, that's because it has all our plugins, studio plugins, but well, maybe that means that you're not doing it raw. That's what you've got as a benefit with your singer being able to belt it out, and
we've had a couple
the raw talent.
A couple of the side stages at Rock on the Range were pretty. They definitely use a different sound dude for their side stages than they do for the main stage.
Craig, I couldn't remember. Had you gotten the chance to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra
Not yet? Not yet.
Mike, have you seen a TSO show?
I've never seen them. I've seen YouTube
videos.
Oh
my God! You're talking about the sound. They bring a fucking recording studio into it's like 15 feet wide, full of sound equipment, but they have this sound where every single song they do sounds exactly like the album, whether it's got a freaking string section in it or a choir in it or 15 people singing background vocals. They've got the most incredible sound setup and producers that I've ever seen in a live show. It's unbelievable.
Oh, I think how especially if you're going to be a headlining band, especially, I think it's really important that you invest in how you're perceived by people, by the fans and everyone out there. I mean, at the end of the day, does everyone know how your kick needs to sound? No, most people are just there and they're just losing their mind. It doesn't matter. But there is something to be said about good sound and clarity in a room that can make all the difference. And I know it was funny. We were actually calculating our sales, and our sales jumped up like 50% as soon as we got a different sound guy.
That's probably
and
the
I started
best.
laughing, and I was like, wow. I was like, people can actually hear what we sound like. I was like, we must have sound like.
Well, you guys sound amazing in those smaller venues. The 1,500, 2,000. Newport in Ohio. Up in Columbus, or the what was the other one that was a pretty good size one? Odd Bodies.
Oh yeah, Odd Bodies.
But the smaller, Adelphia and things like that. I mean, you guys sound good, but it's almost like you're too loud. It's hard to really enjoy the music when it's like you can't hear it. You're just getting blown away by it.
It's just like distorted.
Yeah. But one of those bigger venues, and they're not huge venues, but pretty good sized venues, and they sound so friggin' good, man. Live, it's.
Tell you, some of the coolest venues right now are the ones like the Stage A&E and Express Live.
Express Live is amazing.
Outside one.
That is like the ultimate.
Stage A in Pittsburgh was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, where else can you go where one side you have outdoor and then the inside you got inside? I mean, it's just and the acoustics are amazing.
I like what's the small venue in Columbus? It's in the Arena District.
Newport
Music Hall.
No, the other one. There's something amphitheater.
It was the Promo West for a while. It's near Nationwide Arena.
What is that one called? I like that. It's a smaller venue, and I like the
Polaris Amphitheater.
The acoustics there.
It used to be called Promo West or Promo Live or something like that.
Is it the one beside Express Live, where the basement is now?
Yeah.
It's part outdoor and part indoor.
That Express Live is amazing outside too.
I miss Polaris. That was the greatest venue Columbus had.
Now, Mike, explain something you said earlier about the sound. What did you say about you pre-set up monitor mix or something like that?
Yeah, it's pretty cute. So we have our own mics for our stuff. And then, so basically the signal goes through our system first, which then, goes to our ears. And then we have a snake, and that goes to the main board. And then everything goes to the front of house.
Oh,
and
so
then they
you can mix your own monitor yourself. Okay.
Yeah, our stuff is all pre-monitored in our ears. It's set before we even leave on tour.
I see.
I think the best advice he could ever give any other band is the sound guy, because there's so many bad sound guys out there. Almost every concert I go to has a bad sound guy. It's a bad sound guy when they don't sound good until the last song. You're like, oh wow, they finally got it. They've been searching for it for an hour and a half. They finally got it. But that's like the best advice.
Most sound guys, you'll look out and you'll be like, where'd he go? And he's like at the bar having a beer.
He's picking up some chick.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt that the sound guy's getting chicks, but he's definitely getting beer.
He's trying, he's trying. but that's the thing that all the guys pretty much in here are professional DJs, so we know what it's supposed to sound like, so we're extra sensitive when we go into a show and it's like, man, that sounds like crap. Where the average ears, they can't tell. I mean, I ran karaoke for 15 years and a lot of people can't even tell that, hey, that's not supposed to sound like that. They can't tell the difference, but you get the trained ear and it's like, wow, that's bad.
So you mean you can make me sound good on karaoke?
Oh,
yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can auto-tune you. Make you sound like T-Pain.
I'll have to tell you a story about T-Pain in a little bit.
I'm on a boat.
Love with the stripper.
All right. Well, we've got down to the end here. Mike, I do want to thank you very much for your couple hours out of your time to answer some questions. We're very, very excited to hear the album when it comes out. April 10th, for those of you that are still listening, April 10th is when the new single will come out for Letters from the Fire. And then around May or June, I'll have a complete album drop and some tours to be announced. Make sure you go over to Letters from the Fire's page, Instagram. They have all the social media is pretty well covered with Letters from the Fire, so make sure you go to those places and tune in with them and stay up with them. You won't be disappointed in one of their shows.
I can promise you that. I've been to probably, 15, 20 shows at least, and they put on a great show. I've probably been to more shows than anybody else that, like, except for maybe like the people in LA or something that's close to Mike, but like out here, like anything that's been in Ohio, West Virginia, I try to get to it.
I'm sure they're restocking the merch as we speak. It's being air flighted in. New bracelets and T-shirts and onesies and
all
thongs.
Onesies, G-strings.
It's gonna be awesome.
So, Mike, if you don't care, whenever if you get a chance or whatever, if you can kind of share us out around the California way, we're trying to branch out as much as we can. We do appreciate you pulling some fans in from California and Iowa. So. The name of the game is to get it out there. We obviously we're not doing this for money. This is for fun, but we take it seriously. So hopefully we did you some good on the East Coast here, and we look forward to the new music.
He got at least one new follow. I just like the page.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a great conversation. It was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. Next week we will have we'll be taking over the I didn't put a next week thing in there, but good advertising for Letters from the Fire. That is Nina, the rocking machine there in the front, new singer. But next week we'll be taking over the MOV What's Happening group page once again, which is like a circus, and can't wait to do that again.
I want to ride the merry-go-round.
You'll ride the merry-go-round? Okay. But thanks again, Mike. We appreciate your time, and Scott, roll that beautiful outage. Thanks again, Mike, and go enjoy the warm California while we go out here and freeze our ass off some more.
See you soon, Mike.
So long, I did it my way.
And I've been thinking that maybe it's time to let 'em know that we're alive. Everybody, lift your hands to the sky. If you feel it, let them know that baby, we're sailing everything we have.
See you, folks.
Bye-bye.